Hey everybody, welcome to another RCT2 review. Today we are joined by Where's Walto, who is the newest new Element Parkmaker for his Ohio State Stadium here. Um, this was a recent gold winner here with plus 80% vote, which granted him the role of Parkmaker. So congratulations to you, sir, and welcome in. Thanks for joining.
Thanks. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you got to Parkmaker in sort of an interesting way in the fact that it's a very non-traditional park, as we would say. No coasters, no any of that. Just a pure recreation of probably one of the most famous college football stadiums out there.
Yeah, I'm not really very good at making rides, and honestly, I just always wanted to make a stadium, so I just went for it. So I'm really happy with the score that it received. So yeah, it turned out pretty nice, I think.
Awesome. Well, hey, do what you like, I guess. So let's dive in and kind of start. I guess we'll start kind of with the stadium itself. I love this approach coming up. I love how naturally this standard info kiosk fits in there. Um, the custom one here just kind of blends very nicely with the rest of this. I love your custom palette with like every single shade of gray and tan that you could ever possibly have, and just how kind of naturally it fits in here. Where did you start on this? Did you kind of start straight with the stadium, or were you did you have in mind about how much you wanted to build?
So I started with the field, just kind of messing around. That kind of dictated the entire scale of the map, just because the like yardage marker objects they kind of only fit on at a certain size. So I started with that. I built the field, and then that determined the scale. And then I started building like the lower bowl of the stadium around it.
Hmm.
Um, and then just progressively added more and more to the map. I expanded the map a couple of times. I thought it was going to be done back in the summer, and just decided to build more. I was having too much fun with it. But yeah, the
Yeah,
field kind of yeah, the field determined the whole scale of the map, so that's where I started.
it is kind of impressive what it turned into to being. I guess then the opposite question to that is how did you know when to stop?
Well, I got pretty close to the object limit. I could have gone with a new save file, but I didn't really want to. I felt like the object limit was a good point at which I could stop. I could have done a little bit more, but once I started to get close, and I really felt like the area had its surroundings and the stadium itself had enough context, I felt like that was a good stopping point where I was at.
It's pretty impressive how far we've come that a map of this size can near the object limit that easily. I mean, you can certainly see why with the amount of stuff that you have. I think what impressed me a lot about this just on opening was how much life the stadium has. Just with the kind of variety of the peeps that you've got in here. So you have all the moving ones, you got the jumping ones, the ones that have the white shirts, the red shirts, the dark red. I think that interspersed white kind of punctuates it all very nicely and makes it feel uh, very lively, especially kind of the fan zone over here. I guess was this the student zone?
Yeah, that I mean Ohio State is huge. Like it's there's like 50,000 undergrads, so that entire deck in the end zone there, that's all the student section. And on game days it gets pretty rowdy. But
It,
yeah, like the animated P objects, like the stadium wouldn't have been possible without those. Like those gave the whole thing life. It made it all feel living. So yeah,
I
glad it
think
turned out.
I think that's what I like. When we go back to when RCT Northwest did that stadium a long time ago, it was like technically and engineering wise super impressive and looked great, but it didn't have the life that once you put this animation and movement into, it really gets there. I love too the color changing panels here. I think Josh made those.
Yeah, that's
Those are
such a neat
great.
object.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how people are going to use that in the future, but I think this is a really good use for that for all the display elements there, and then just the flags, and just so much movement in general. Um, and then of course you had to put the marching band. I mean, I guess you probably kind of went back and forth about whether to do the team or the marching band, or was it always the band?
Originally, I think it was empty, and then somebody in Discord said that you should put the marching band out there, and I thought, well, maybe I can spell out Script Ohio and it'll look cool. And it ended up looking pretty nice. So yeah, it
Actually,
was originally going to be, but yeah, we just went for that instead.
it is pretty impressive about how well that manages to read as far as this goes. Like
Yeah.
it actually reads really really well in there. Uh, Architecturally, this is pretty cool, especially from kind of building from down here up, and in RCT scale, especially having some of these little exits back to the concourse and everything else. I find sometimes the scale is tough. The fact that you did the two different steepnesses really seems to help, and then on the outside, just um, these kind of nice transitions from the flat to the half diagonal to the diagonal, and then this kind of great bowl entry here on the backside. Um, it really all sort of works in scale very nicely.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's a weird shape, right? It's not really something that can be easily pulled off, or wasn't. I mean, it was impossible in Roller Coaster Tycoon for a long time with the roundedness of it. But I think with half diagonals and everything, and building diagonally is you know more possible than ever. I think you're able to pull it off, like some of those complex shapes. And then like that entry bowl there, it's like an inverted bowl in the atrium, and so like using those frozen monorail trains is a good way to get that curvature, keeping some of the detail. It's an effect you can't really get with objects. So
Which that's a
definitely
super cool
some.
detail.
Yeah, I think I stole that idea from Leon actually. That's one of his originals. So totally stole it from him. But yeah, it's kind of it's a complex building, and then like um, it wasn't all built at the same time. Like there have been additions to it over time because it's a very old structure, and so some of the materials are actually different, and that kind of necessitated having all those different shades of like gray and brown to really capture like that tower there. Those two towers on either end of the end zone, like those are old. Like I think those were part of the original structure back in like the 20s or 30s, and then the new exterior is kind of it's lighter in shade, and that's like it's like newer materials. I don't have an engineering degree, and I don't know really like what it's made out of, but yeah, it's an interesting stadium, and kind of lots of different materials and styles happening all at once.
You can really see the history sort of unfold as you go across the space from just the architectural style of it and into the different colors like you did. That was pretty cool to see that recreated. And then just outside of the stadium, there's still kind of so much to see. I love the little tailgate going on here with the tents and everything. It feels kind of appropriately scaled. I love that you got the cornhole in here. You've got the various peeps kind of cruising around in there, and the snowballs, which I actually hadn't noticed till now.
Yeah, snowballs give a nice little. Just again, I'm really a sucker for movement. Like that's what I like. I like the having the flag objects. I liked having the snowballs that can kind of simulate cornhole bags being tossed. And yeah, I just like giving little bits of life into a parking lot, which otherwise would be stale and boring. So
All the
yeah,
little
nice
grill
little.
pieces here. That's
Yeah.
great. And then I mentioned this before we started the recording, but I love here how you've got the single wide path, but you've got a bunch of frozen peeps here, so it looks like there's a lot more movement and just a lot more kind of occupation of the space, despite the fact that it's only one tile wide worth of actual movement. That's clever.
Yeah, thanks. It's a good way to mask having a single file, because that's kind of the best way to manage peeps, but you don't want it to look so, like that. You want it to be more organic.
Well, and that's always the struggle, I guess, when you have double or triple wide pathways is you have the peeps just kind of turning every which direction, and at least here you sort of have that directionality of movement, so they're actually walking down the path like they would be, but you don't have to worry about, it looking more chaotic, but it still looks
Hmm.
full, which is
Hmm.
nice. Um, and then I guess as you kind of pull off from the stadium, you've got just all this other great movement. So you have the bicycle riders down here on the path by the water. Um, which is nice. This is actually one of the first times that I feel like the dark blue water has worked well. I'm usually not the biggest proponent of it, but it actually looks quite nice here, kind of up against these colors.
Yeah, good. It's not exactly a clean river, so having dark water was essential.
That's fair. And I know these towers to be somewhat maligned, but also a signature piece of the campus. So kind of cool that you were able to include these, especially too, again with that amount of half diagonal usage and everything like that.
Yeah, those are remnants of like 1970s dormitory style architecture. So they're just they look literally like that in real life. They're just these tall, featureless towers that are just meant to maximize the number of students you can cram into the space. So yeah, having them was kind of important to get the iconic surrounding area of the stadium. But yeah, the shape of those things is pretty interesting. It took a while to get it right, but having half diagonal walls was really the only way to pull it off because it's kind of that uh, hexagonal shape almost.
Yeah, kind of dissecting how this came together. It's pretty interesting because you've got kind of two like one by one towers here, then diagonal coming across, and then you've got on this one intersecting it with half diagonals on both sides and the diagonal here. I mean, it's a pretty complex geometry in there, and it's kind of surprising actually how well it does without glitching super much. Certainly OpenGL helps that, but it actually reads pretty cleanly.
Yeah, OpenGL, and then using the tile inspector to change the draw order
Mhm.
on those windows. But yeah, yeah, it's not too bad. But
Yeah, it's pretty nice. And then the building over here, which I don't, you'll have to tell me what this one is.
so that's I think it's called the Drake Performance Art Center. So students will like put on plays and stuff in there, and like there'll be like theater classes in that building and stuff.
Okay, yeah, it's nicely done. Although I guess it's a shame that kind of in both directions you've hidden your front facade of it.
Yeah, yeah, the towers block it from the kind of the same spot on both ways.
Well, we can at least take a quick peek here and see. But I mean, as far as this era of architecture, there's not a whole lot to look at on the front. Although I do kind of like this raised walkway coming across the top, where you enter from the second level, and then your parking lot comes in on the first level. That's nice.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of these buildings, like they're not really like interesting. There's not a ton of features, and that kind of makes it challenging to make them interesting in the game. Because you don't have a ton of texture, you don't have a ton of like detail, and so it's really on you to get the shape right and to get the look right and to not make it so boring to look at as it is in real life.
Well, and I think in RCT we've been taught at the current meta to detail, over detail, and kind of go so far down that line. So it's kind of you're right. It's interesting to kind of be forced to take a step back and consider how you're going to go about that. And I think you've achieved it pretty well as far as using the right textures that still have that sort of detail to it. I mean, you take the half diagonal building here. Like, there's not a whole lot of detail to it, but the fact that it's on the half diagonal, it's got some of those trim pieces, it still looks good, and I think it's still novel enough as a half diagonal that it works.
Yeah, I mean it's all a credit to the objects available now.
Yeah, that's the big thing, and I'm sure the new save format's really going to push on that. Um, so you got your practice fields back here, which I love the little mower object as well. So I guess both soccer and football through here, and then a whole bunch of tennis courts.
Yeah, so many tennis courts, and they're mostly empty, which is realistic.
Yeah, I feel like that was definitely a thing of the later 1900s where it was 70s, 60s, 70s where everybody went tennis courts everywhere. You look at old resorts that had tennis courts just for days, and now it's resort pools and things like that. The tennis courts sit empty. So I guess that's a product of the times. But I do love the movement here too with all the tennis players. That's fun. Is this just running it at shuttle mode? I guess.
I believe so. Yeah,
That's clever.
good. Just back and forth.
Because I guess it's small enough you don't even need an arc. It just works. That's fun.
Yeah, it's just it's slightly raised,
Hmm.
and then it just goes. I didn't have it go up or down at all.
That's fun. Then here we have another building here. Which what is this one?
This is called the RPAC, which is the rec center on campus. The main rec center. Ohio State has like four of them, but this is the main one. It has like this red glass enclosed walkway, and that walkway extends like way further up that street. And yeah, it's all like glass on the side of the building, and it's a really cool rec center. There's like 2 levels of basketball courts on the inside of it. Obviously, I haven't done that, but yeah, you go inside and like if you're standing on the side, you can actually see like 2 levels of people playing basketball. There's a gigantic weight room, and like an elevated track that goes all around. But right now, what I have going on inside is called Buckeye-thon, which is like a dance-a-thon fundraiser every year they have on campus. Just another way to add movement, have peeps moving around. And actually, this is like the hackiest thing that I did in the whole park. I manipulated the stats of one of the rides inside there to have like 30 excitement, and I realized with one ride at 30 excitement, the park rating kind of sits at like 999,
Huh.
which I didn't expect that to happen, but
That's funny.
I found it I found it pretty convenient, so I let it happen.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. You have all the different cars and stuff, or the peep rides and all that. And what's kind of cool about this is that you didn't even really have to go super detailed on the inside. I really like how you get just enough of that movement through the black glass that you can really kind of get that sense of movement, which is pretty cool. I love the skateboarders too. That's a nice little touch in that here.
Yeah. Yeah, again, just adding more movement, like things
Hmm.
happening in different ways that make the map just a little bit more interesting to look at.
Hmm. This red walk here on the backside kind of struck me since it's one of the kind of richest color spots in the park, so it definitely kind of stands out, especially when you're looking at the backside here, and kind of cool to see the openness of the stadium behind.
Yeah, that whole back area is pretty interesting. Just structurally, like you can, it's a lot of like open support work, and so that was a good way to add a lot of detail. And then yeah, that like red track, it's like clay almost, and it's like striped in different shades of red, um, which yeah, it looks almost unrealistic in the game, but that is how it looks in real life. So yeah, it's kind of a neat area. So I always like showing off when I was showing screens. This is kind of the area that I always like to show off, just because it's so colorful and detailed in this area.
So I actually did, after I popped this park open, went to Google Maps and was kind of walking around the stadium in Street View and just maps and everything, looking at all the details that you had added. And this one kind of struck me as pretty cool. It was a neat touch, kind of reminded me of some stuff that we had at Georgia Tech as well. So it was a good little touch there. And then as we come around here to the other side, we've got some nice kind of tailgaters in here. And the walkway in and out was very nice. Putting these Tulsamere booths to good use.
Yeah, those tents I mean, they're everywhere. Like it's so amazing like what you can do with custom track rides now. Like you can just add so many cool details that we just didn't have available for so many years, but now like curved tents. I mean, it sounds so small, but it's such a huge innovation that really opens up parks and makes them feel more real and more natural.
It really is, and I like this detail here of just this mass of people trying to get into uh, the stadium here. It's fun.
Yeah, the student section, like for whatever reason, they don't open every single gate, and so there's always just a horde of people trying to get in every game. Like yeah, it's like the main like archway gates, they don't connect to the student section. The student section is its own like isolated part of the stadium, and you can't access the other parts of it. So there's limited entry points at that part of the stadium.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Over here we have our anti-vax protesters, which I'm sure there's a fair bit of those these days.
Yeah, I actually so I work for the Las Vegas Raiders, and so when I go to the home games, there's always like a crowd of people outside of Allegiant Stadium protesting every game. They always have their signs up and everything. It's been
Jeez.
every week this year they've been there. So I wanted to give a little shout out to something that I see regularly.
Well, you can't fix stupid, so you know. And then kind of as we move along, you get a nice little snapshot of the parking deck here, and then also this one looks like either trash facility or what
So
is it?
everything I could find on that building is just referred to as maintenance building.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, so there's just like parked semis, like service trucks. I think there's a little forklift and a dumpster. So just trying to capture what it's like in real life, but also just add that layer of context,
These
just
semi
to make it
trucks
feel
work really well.
more of a lived-in world.
Yeah, these work really well with the custom trailer and then the custom ride as the cab and the trailer there. Those are quite nice. Um, and I do like the additional layers of kind of just degradation you've got with some of the trash pieces here and some of the road being torn up. It definitely adds that more realistic sense here, and it's not necessarily decrepit. It's just used.
Yeah, I know some people didn't like it, but if you go into Street View and look, that particular stretch of road, like it's tar marks. It's not like road cracks. There's like tar when they've like redone the road because like in the winter, like the roads get covered in snow, and then what they do to thaw out the roads, they can't always shovel it because there's not enough space for the snow to go. So they'll put salt on the roads, and that a lot of times like cracks the concrete, so they have to retar it frequently. So
It's a
that's actually what
very
the dark marks
it's a
are.
very northern thing. It's
Yeah.
as I remember that from growing up in Pennsylvania, so it definitely has that same feel to it. Um, but yeah, that's cool. Car accident, nice little detail.
Yeah. Again, just little vignettes, little slices of life, trying to give the park more interesting things to look at because parking lots are not super exciting.
Yeah, that's fair, and you're going to get a lot of parking lots around a stadium typically. What's the
Yeah.
detail in here that you're kind of most proud of, or something that you think most people will pass over?
Uh, I really liked how the semis turned out. Like the semi trucks with the trailers. I thought those were cool.
Hmm.
Because so some of my favorite objects are the letter line pieces. I
Hmm.
think you can put in a lot of really cool like intricate tiny details with those. And then also I really like the how the RVs turned out. It's the same kind of idea with like a frozen track ride mixed with scenery, and I
Hmm.
think together you get a nice effect. So again, this is just like this came from me prowling the Discord, and I think I forget who, but somebody mentioned like they said something along the lines of you never see in the dirty American realism like semi trucks taking up multiple spaces in parking lots. So I thought, I'll just throw in some trailers and see if I can make them look nice. And I think I pulled it off. So
Yeah.
just small stuff like that. I liked in the parking lot between the towers. I added some traffic cones and like marked off a pedestrian path so that people can easily walk to and from the bus stop. It's like
Hmm.
a planned walkway through the parking lot.
Very nice.
Yeah, I mean, small stuff like that.
Well, that's a little detail that I wouldn't have noticed until you told me about it. But now that you say it, it reads pretty accurately like that because it's not like it's random spaces. It's clearly a pathway across. And you've also
Yeah,
managed to do the worn grass here, which is just a very nice touch.
yeah. People crossing over it a lot, and it'll get worn. There's also I stuck a little flat ride inside one of the soccer nets too.
What did you? Which
Yeah, the far one there.
love it. Fraternity pledge.
Someone had too much to drink last night.
That's fantastic. I love it. Oh, that's very cool. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up our tour here. Any last thoughts you'd like to impart?
uh, let's go Bucks.
There you go. And I always do ask for everybody who I have as guest, what's next for you?
So I dropped a screen in Discord the other day during the Fiesta. I want to go back and revive the head-to-head seven playoff park that went unfinished. It's a fantasy park with a strong narrative. I want to pick it up and finish it and do it right. So I think that's next for me. I kind of bounce back and forth between realism and fantasy. So After doing this one, I need a palate cleanse, and I need to go into something that makes no sense. So
There you go. Try some variety in there. That's always good.
yeah,
Cool. Well, thank you very much. It has been an absolute pleasure to go through this park, and congratulations once again on being the newest park maker. Welcome to the club.
thank you, feels good. Yeah, thanks for having me, and love these videos. I hope they keep coming.
Absolutely. And for everyone watching, you can download this park here in the description. Just scroll down and click the link to the forums, download it, take a look, and then leave your comment with what you thought. So give some commentary and feedback as well. We will be back with more RCT2 reviews and more fun stuff here in the future. So until next time, thank you all very much for watching, and we will catch you in the next one. Bye now.